This is Stare Down the Bull. I'm your host, Susan Hunt. Around here, we tackle the hard stuff, how to lead with clarity, leveraging AI, and turn strategy into real results. My guest today brings a powerful perspective on how to do exactly that. Let's dive in. Today on Stare Down the Bull, I'm talking with Bruce Eidsvik, a leader who's built his career taking on entrenched giants and winning. As an early force behind Voice Genie, he helped break into markets dominated by Alcatel and Nortel, replacing decades-old relationships across major enterprises. After scaling globally with Genesis, he now is the Chief Growth Officer at Servion. Today, he's working with a surge of global organizations, all trying to answer the same question. How do we scale and implement AI? He's helping turn that question into real execution. Thanks for joining today, Bruce. It's really nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Susan. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Love it.
I've been listening to these conversations. They're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been having a pretty good time recording all of them and just catching up with old friends, you know? So Bruce, let's start at the beginning. What drew you to Voice Genie, and what was the vision that made you believe you could take on giants like Alcatel and Nortel?
Yeah, I had been, the company that birthed Voice Genie is called Array Systems, and I'd actually been in the defense business. And through that effort, we ended up doing work for Bell Labs. So one of the key defense consultants that the Department of Defense used for looking at the quality of our software ended up at Bell Labs, and he thought the stuff we did was pretty good. And he started working on the early days of a markup language for voice services. This is like 1996, so the start of the internet, right?
Yep.
His lab also created SIF, like the same folks in that lab came up with SIF, which I'm sure everybody's aware of. So he started developing this standard. They got it together with Lucent and Motorola at the time. And from that effort came this globally established standard called Voice XML. I'm sure most people have listened or heard of that.
Yes.
And we've been helping build this voice platform for Bell Labs, which became ATT Labs Research eventually through that breakup. And I saw it and thought, like, wow, this is going to be a game changer. So I negotiated a license to the technology we had been building under contract to Bell Labs back to this company. We birthed Voice Genie out of that license. We did a VC round. At the time, it was the largest VC round, or actually largest angel round in Canadian history, $10 million.
Wow.
And that kicked Voice Genie off. I'll just say at the time, we were, it was an active space, and Tell Me was in this market at about the same time, birthed at the same time. They raised $220 million. So we're now in the sort of just end of 1990s, early 2000s. Actually, just before the dot crash is when we were raising this money, and started to build off essentially, a very small revenue stream from AT&T, but of course, great credentials, and built a sales team and started to build Voice Genie. And then
I never think of you and Tell Me in the same space. Like, I always thought of you as more of an infrastructure play, and then more as just a voice platform, SaaS platform kind of thing. So it's interesting that you kind of talked about those two things together.
Yeah, and these, so you're absolutely right. But they started selling to enterprise, right?
Yes.
And so they were a real competitor for us. Or I could say we were a competitor for them. So you talk about staring down the bull and conquering, going after Tell Me was really, really hard. I have to say there was one thing that we did early in our days that changed the game. And Voice XML wasn't quite established as a standard, right? There was a standard that had been produced. A bunch of large companies were endorsing it. And we decided to run a press release to say that Voice Genie just beat out Tell Me in a head-to-head competition on voice XML compliance, which we ran ourselves. And Tell Me's lawyers didn't like that very much. So they
I
sent us
bet.
a letter saying, you have to show us the proof, or you have to pull back. And we said, like, we have the proof. And in fact, we'd love to go to head with some third party that you choose, and we'll run this competition and demonstrate that we're number one in compliance. So that war established voice XML. And as Tommy was going off to present, they started talking about voice XML all the time, that this is the most important thing. And they go like, oh, when are there any other, players in this space? And they said, well, there's some small firm in Canada called Voice Genie. And we started getting these calls. Like, so
Right.
it was awesome.
Right.
It was the best marketing budget I ever didn't spend. So that
Oh, that's
really
hysterical.
helped establish it. And when it came to head, we were truly a better platform. We had our software engineering, all Waterloo, all U of T. So what's really cool, if you pull this forward to the AI days of today, Ilya Suskevich was at U of T when we were going to the U of T for support, and some really foundational people at the University of Waterloo. So we had amazing folks. If we had a problem with our C++ compiler, we could go to Bjorn Stundstrup, the creator of C++.
Yeah.
So our tech really worked well, and tell me help with our marketing budget.
That is awesome. I know during the early days, you faced a lot of hurdles. You were trying to unseat like Nortel and Altel in entrenched relationships at banks, airlines, and telcos. What was the biggest hurdle that you faced trying to do that?
Yeah, like one thing, sort of a Canadian thing, is it's interesting. Like we didn't have a lot of success in Canada. We did okay, but
Yeah.
you might not know this, Susan, or maybe you do. But in Canada, you sort of have to win in the States first.
Yeah, I do know that. I ran Canada
Yeah,
for a while, remember, like 15, 20
yeah,
years?
exactly.
Tony told me
So
every day. So did you. Yeah,
so
you gotta win in
we
the
we
lower
knew we had
48.
we knew we had the best tech. And I could say at that point, we'd also raised a second round of VC funding from Insight Venture Partners in New York. That gave us real credibility. That was another $10 million. So Insight was a huge help to us. So they gave us sort of the funding for us to go and build a real sales team. The other thing that we had done, which is a bit of a recurring theme now, but we set up a developer platform, and we allowed people to access Voice Genie remotely and build their voice XML apps. And it is quite incredible that we had gone into more than one opportunity where they'd already built an application on our platform. We just didn't know it. We had like, I think 20,000 developers on Voice Genie at the time. So the fact that these clients could try the platform out and see
Yeah,
that it really worked helped a lot. And of course, then we built some great partnerships, with companies like Nuance and Speechworks. And we are a key part of that equation, right? Like Nuance and
totally.
Speechworks needed a voice XML platform in order to integrate their tech into the platform. So, you know, how big a help you were to Voice Genie, and through our, say, Verizon relationship, which was a huge success. And of course, it was it was symbiotic. It was a huge help to
Yeah.
Nuance and Speechworks as well. So those
Yeah,
partnerships.
we really needed a cutting edge platform, and we weren't gonna get that out of Alcatel and Nortel, but we all had the same challenge, like, all that stuff was entrenched in these companies,
And they
so
didn't want to see that tech come along anyways. They were not supporters of voice XML. That was a real
right.
threat to them. So they were very slow to adopt to that new tech.
I
And then
mean,
I'll say we
everybody
also
was
had,
t
of course, yeah,
Go ahead.
we
No,
had
go ahead.
Microsoft come along with Salt.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember that. They came out
I
with their own
do.
standard.
Yes, of
Uh,
course they did.
of course they did. And
I mean, you had a lot of people telling you what you were doing was gonna be completely impossible. When did you realize when was the actual time that you realized we can actually do this?
what don't you think it was like the "How may I help you?" Like, we had some big
Yeah.
applications deployed at AT&T. So we had
Yep.
big apps at AT&T, big apps at Verizon. We were starting to get into some of the banks. Um, and in this case now, both in the US and Canada. And I think, and when we saw Nortel and Nortel Paraphonics and their Voice Bright and Edify, all sort of then jumping onto the Voice XML bandwagon, we thought like, wow, we got like 2 years head start.
Yeah.
This is where the space is going. We're in good shape.
You think that's how the teams thought about replacing these guys? You just were so cutting edge ahead of time. You were given new options because waiting for Verizon and AT&T to deploy to realize that you could really do it. I thought you were pretty far down the road by the time you got that stuff done.
We had a proven platform, but adoption was the real
Yeah.
issue. I agree with that, and because we were a smaller company, I think we had to have those landmark accounts to have
Yeah.
credibility, and we did start at the top, the larger deployments because we were just so scalable, and then and didn't really have the sales force and the maturity of a go to market to move down market. So
Right.
in our case, we were up market first and then moved down market, which of course it was probably slower ramp, but we did build our revenue over like we launched in 2000. By 2006,
Yeah.
our revenue was in the tens of millions. So
Would you say that that was strategic, persistence, both, or just a lot of luck?
it was really hard work,
Yeah.
perseverance, backed by a really good platform. And then we got some really good leadership in, thanks to Insight. So
Yeah.
we were sort of missing the maturity model of go to market, and Insight really helped us with that and brought in some really strong. I don't know if you remember Thomas Charlton came in as the CEO, and
Yep. Mhm.
that's when things really changed. Actually, that's when we were a rocket ship. After that,
So the name of the show is Stare Down the Bull. So I'm going to ask you the Stare Down the Bull question. If you had to pick one moment in your career where you truly stared down the impossible and won, what would that be? And what was going through your mind at the time?
I have both personal and professional versions of that.
All right, share them
So
both. We're here
yeah,
to hear them
yeah.
both.
So this is really interesting, actually. So I had been working with the current CEO to get VoiceGenie off the ground. This was 2000, and I could not seem to convince him. And I decided at that point maybe it was time for a career change, and I'm going to take sabbatical. And I decided to climb Mount Logan. Mount Logan's up
Wow.
in the Yukon. It's
Yeah.
Canada's highest mountain. It's the second highest. Denali's number one, but
Yeah.
we decided to do the East Ridge of Mount Logan, which is a more technical route. If you ever look it up, you'll know that it's a technical route. There's a lot of exposure, uh,
Okay. I will
and
look it
to
up.
get to the base, you have to charter a private aircraft with skis on it. It flies you in over a 10,000-foot peak, and drops you off on a snowfield. And when it takes off, and this is like, there's no cell phones, there's no nothing. He's gone, and you could be stuck there for a week or 2 weeks if the weather got bad. In fact, we'd spent a week on the airstrip by the airfield waiting for weather to get in. So when he left, it was really silent. And
Oh my
there's
God.
nothing but snow and rocks. There's not a tree within 100, honestly, within 100 kilometers. It's not a single tree. And we spent the next 2 weeks climbing that mountain, 11 days going up. Uh, and, we were arriving in our advanced base camp. And the reason we couldn't get in is because there was so much snow that had come in. And we had this massive class 4 avalanche come
Oh my God.
down that mountain and take out our site for the advanced base camp. So we decided that that was not a good place to set that up. So we moved down to the mountain a little bit, and that's where the real climbing started. And from there, we spent 11 days going up, and that was it. After that, it went swimmingly. I have to say, other than I uh, pretty much froze my ear off like rock solid on summit day. There's big winds. It was -20. This is May, by the way.
Oh my God.
Um, and I didn't realize my ear was exposed. And when I finally got back to camp, it was hard as a rock, but it's still there. So that so that was fun. That was pretty amazing. And I gotta say, another one that was really
Wait. I got to ask a question
I-
about that one because that is amazing. That's wild. Like, did you think you were going to die at any point? I mean, did you think you were going to die the whole time? Like,
I mean,
that's
you're
really
always
scary to me.
nervous. When that class 4 came through the camp, like you knew then that it was real, and there's no rescue. Like if
Yeah.
something goes wrong on the mountain, um, they can't like it's 20,000 feet as the summit, so it's pretty high, and it's
Yeah.
on a really fine ridge. And there are a lot of it's not a well climbed. There we did see one other guy coming down, so you don't see a
Yeah.
lot of people. So you are on your own. Yep. And you know what the most dangerous thing is?
Hmm.
Amongst all the dangers, if your stove breaks down,
Yeah.
that is a disaster because there's no water, right? You have to melt snow
Right. You
for
got to melt
water,
water.
and if you can't melt snow, you're in big trouble. And you could be there for a few weeks, right? If the weather really got bad.
What kind of stove do you take? Isn't it just one of those little?
Yeah, whisper light, whisper light.
So how do they
Yeah.
break down?
Look, the thing is that they're great. They have lots of repairable pieces, but I mean, if it breaks, we'd have backup, by the way. But
Yeah.
but if it breaks, that's really like you're in big trouble. But seriously, um,
What did you learn from this? Because you had to learn a lot about yourself doing this.
um,
Outside of your survivor, which we know that you live in Canada, and there's still
yeah.
4
Look,
feet of snow there right now,
as a
right?
highlight of, I have to say, as a highlight, it's one of the most awesome things I've ever done. I love that
I'm
journey,
sure.
and it was so challenging, and it felt good. I loved it. Like and we didn't make. I guess it's important. We didn't make the summit the goal. The summit was a win.
Yeah.
The experience was the goal, and
Yeah.
obviously
The
getting out
journey.
alive was goal number one. So we want to have a fantastic experience. If we made the summit, that's a big win, but that was never essential for this trip. And I think you want to push yourself hard. You want to test your limits, but don't be stupid. Because in our case, pushing your luck beyond reason is truly fatal.
Yeah. This is
So
what I
I've
love
backed,
about
I've done a lot of climbing since then, and I've backed off mountains, but I didn't feel it. And that's the other thing. The intuition I felt like it's weird. Yeah, that thing went swimmingly, but I've definitely been experienced that did not go swimmingly,
Yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
always had that gut feeling like this does not feel good, and I don't know what it is, but we're turning around. And
Yeah. It's a knowing. It's a knowing. And if you're smart, you'll follow those vibes
yeah,
all
and you
the
gotta,
time in everything you do.
yeah, it's because you get when you're challenging yourself, there's always going to be like if you ever been on a stage with 3,000 people, you're not
Yeah.
just walking up there without some I don't want to do this and there's nerves, etc. And you got to decide is what signal and what's noise, what can I ignore. So same thing when you're climbing, you have to decide, okay, I'm feeling a little bit nervous here, but I know it's just a couple of moves I got to get through, I
Mhm.
got to be fine, right? Or
Mhm.
no, there's something bigger here that I'm so I think having that self analysis is really, really useful to know your limits, to push yourself, absolutely, but to know when it's time to maybe take another look. So
You know, this is what I love about Stare Down the Bowl, Bruce, is that I've known you for probably since 2000, so 26 years.
Yeah,
I never
crazy.
knew that you did that. I don't know how it's possible that I don't know that you did that at any time in your life because we knew each other when you did it. And it's like
Yeah,
not something that slips your mind to tell somebody that you've been talking to. But I learned these things about people in such depth that I didn't know, even though I've known them for a really long time in
that's funny.
every single episode. So that was like a really big deal in your life. I had no idea that you did that. It's
Yeah, and in
incredible.
fact, if you look behind, I don't know if you can see that painting behind, but that's another
Yeah,
mountain we climbed as well. So mountains have always,
it's
yeah, they're
really
part of
cool.
my. That's why we live in Canmore, Alberta. I
Yeah,
love the mountains. Now my whole
yeah, I
family
know you
loves
do.
the mountain. Not right away.
Yeah.
We lived in California before. They love California.
I love the mountains too, but I'm more of a Vail kind of a girl, to be honest with you. I love the mountains as long as I'm staying at a spa. No, I really
I
do
don't
love
mind
the
spas
mountains,
either. FYI.
but I don't want to
Yeah.
climb. I really don't want to climb one. I don't mind skiing them. You said you had one other stair down the bowl.
Yeah, yeah. So the other one, yeah, so Voice Genie gets in yeah 2006 gets acquired by Genesis. It was a good exit, um, and I ended up working for Genesis for until 2020, somewhere around there. Long,
Yeah,
great long career. Um, that started in Paris. So this is the awesome. Genesis said I thought after Voice Genie's acquisition, they'd say like we don't really need a head of sales. So thanks
yeah,
very much. And I was ready for a vacation.
yeah,
But they said, would you like to work in Europe? And I went like, absolutely. Sure. Where? They said, well, where would you like to move? I go like, really? Um, and I said, well, Munich, of course, skiing, right? But my wife, uh, soon to be wife, actually, said, like, I want to move to Paris. So I said, look,
yeah,
and she had to quit her job. So I said, all right, Paris it is. So we moved to Paris. I ran strategic solutions there, which was awesome. I did a lot of stuff in the Middle East, which I really enjoyed. Emirates was a big account that we won, which was a fly. I don't know if you've flown an Emirates, but what an airline.
yes,
And we had
yeah,
such a
amazing.
great customer there. I really enjoyed that. And they were, when it comes to delivering the ultimate customer experience, Emirates is
They're
pretty
the
high up there.
tops. Yep,
Even though
yep.
right now I got to say it's so tough. I feel a lot. We've got a pretty big Servion has a pretty big team there, and it's really rough right now. And I pray
In the
for
Middle East, yeah,
yeah
definitely.
in Dubai. Yeah. Um, then we were Genesis went private, so our Alcatel was our owner, and Premier came in and bought them out in
Yes,
2012. That was a really great outcome for Genesis, and we went on a real tear. That was 2012, and Tom Egemeyer, who was became the president uh, and led sales, asked if I would be willing to run Asia Pacific, and I said, well, that would be great. So I
yeah,
moved to Singapore
yeah,
and
beautiful. Love it.
lived out of Singapore for 5 years, running the whole Asia Pacific. But this comes to the story is like, um, so because of the success of Emirates, I thought like, well, what's this? Well, what's the best or second best airline in the world? Well, Singapore Airlines. So you could,
Yep,
which one's better? So I thought, well, I got to go win Singapore Airlines, right? And so this is cool. I was on a flight. There was a bingo card in those days. He filled out, and I said, like, look, your in-flight service is amazing, but your contact center and customer service, over other channels, it could use some improvement. And we love to help. And out of that, they got back to me, which is amazing. And we set up a meeting. I have to give credit to part of the premier ownership was the Singapore government of Singapore sovereign wealth fund, and the individual ran that fund, became a really good friend, and he says, "Oh, do you want to meet the CEO of Singapore Airlines?" I said, "Absolutely." So he's on texting. He's like, "You want to meet this Bruce guy?" It's like, "Yeah." So we get a meeting with the CEO. That's fantastic. And he's a great individual. And we started that journey. We could not prime this thing at that time in Asia. We weren't big enough. So we brought in a partner, and that partner um, was challenging. I'll just put it that way. But they gave it global reach.
Hmm.
But it was a really challenging interaction, and it was frustrating for us because we had built everything, all the requirements, had the relationships, and we just really bought them in for the delivery. But they soon thought they were the owners of this. Anyways, at a certain point, I remember this is like it's a Sunday night, 11 o'clock. We're just about to close this thing, and they put constraints on us contractually. I said we just can't do this deal, and so I left that call going, there's no deal. So after, how long these things take to
Yes.
close, we were done. And I had to report that back. It was a big deal. I actually brought the CEO over to meet with the Singapore Airlines CEO at one point. But I just felt like we couldn't do it. So we stared down the bowl and walked away. And then
And that was
40
it?
hours, no, the
Oh,
cave.
okay. Of course they did. That's my favorite.
And yeah, and look,
I
they
imagine it was
were,
some big SI that was causing the problem. Is that true?
yeah. That's why I want to keep the mundane. But yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened. And they backed off. I think they were trying to get as much as they could, and they're testing us to the limit. And we desperately wanted the business, but it just wasn't going to work. In fact,
Yeah.
that has
They were
happened
making
one
it.
other time. I can I tell you another story?
Sure.
This
Okay.
bank in India, who shall also go unnamed. They had like the complaints we were getting about the service we were delivering was horrible, and the price, by the way, we'd offered was also horrible.
Yeah.
Um, and they were constantly reminding us how much better of Via was, and that was the previous incumbent. And I was at a wedding one time. I'm getting pulled out of the wedding so that I can take these phone calls of complaint. Um, and I finally said to the MD of India, I said, like, we got to go meet the CIO and sit down with him. And I said, and we did, and he had a big table and all his team around him. And I said, look, you're really unhappy with the level of support we've been providing you. So you made a decision to give your money back. And so we'll just give you your money back and we'll walk away. And he was like, what? He wasn't ready for that. He goes like, wait. I go like, no. Can I bring up a few emails that you sent me like over the weekend? Uh, so this went back and forth, back and forth. Said, no, you can't call us at midnight, on a Friday, unless it's urgent. We'll always take, if it's a real issue, we'll absolutely take it. Look, and that reset the relationship,
Yeah.
big time. We stayed in, and the CIO went off to other jobs, and we went in every time after that.
There's a lot to be said for that Dune level of strategy when you're working with the customer. I think most of the big customers understand that if you get to the point where the deal is so unpalatable for the vendor, they will walk away. So there's only so much that you can push somebody because all of those resources and time that you're using within your own organization to support either a really underpriced cheap deal or an over requirements from a customer that are unreasonable could be used somewhere else. And I've had this conversation with multiple customers over the year and just simply explained, look, the deal is so unpalatable at this time. We really can't deploy our resources to you for this. So either we walk away or we figure out a way that it's going to be beneficial for both companies because my success and my revenue matters to you as much as it does to me in the end because we have to
I might
support our
have learned
company.
some of that from you.
Maybe you did. That was like my
Almost for
favorite
sure I did.
negotiating thing.
100% I learned it from you. Absolutely.
Never
Yes.
let him see you sweat, Bruce.
But look, you want,
And I had to
I,
face down Paul Ritchie every time I did that. So, like that was serious shit.
that
That
would have
wasn't
been
easy.
fun. That's right. That's right. But
Every time I walked away from a deal, I had to explain it to Paul. It was never pretty, never pretty.
I would say I've never think I've seen fear on your eyes, so that would be surprising if you were able to
I'm
go
never
into it.
afraid. I'm not
Yeah,
afraid.
that's what I thought.
I'm just not. I was when I was younger, but I haven't been in a long time because
But I
what a
also
waste of
believe too.
energy.
Well, I just like a couple things. You it has to be a partnership in the end. Like
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I certainly believe in this strongly to Servion. This is why I love Servion. I've never been in an SI role.
Yeah,
Is we serve the client number one. Like
yeah,
we have OEM partners in there, and our job is to support them for sure. And if things are going wrong, we want to give them as much exposure as possible so that they can have every opportunity to fix that, and
yeah.
so that we make the client happy. But our job is to make the client happy, and that means having happy subcontractors and suppliers. It has to, as long as we all have the same goal, which is their result, like that's
Success.
the ultimate
Yeah,
goal. But there has to be a win for all the stakeholders. Otherwise,
exactly.
you're going to
It'll
have
break.
retention issues. Yeah.
The whole thing will break if there's not a reasonable play for every single person in
And
the in the
a
partnership.
lot of our clients now sort of take, I think, I don't know if you feel this way, but the industry's matured a little bit. At least I love about, I'd say this about North America specifically, is there is a real view of a win-win.
Definitely.
The buyers aren't like, we're going to, nail you down to the point where, yours going to be, we're going to have a great win for our company. I don't think you will. And most companies aren't that
No.
way.
I mean, if you don't literally, if a company's not making money that you're working with, then you
You're at
become
risk.
low priority. There are other companies that are more profitable, and I don't care who you are. If you're a huge company and the company that you're working with is not making any money, you're still going to get deranked down the pole, below, way below anybody that is profitable. So it doesn't really pay for them to do that, and I think that they really understand this clearly. At least the big, like the Fortune 500 companies
Yeah, you
really
get the
understand.
odd, yeah, but 90% of them, and ultimately our tech delivers a great ROI. Like I sincerely believe that. We talk a little bit about whether it delivers a great customer experience. I think we still have work to do there. But
Yeah.
in terms of an ROI to the client, this is, there's no doubt that this stuff delivers the benefit. So trying to tweak around the edges, it's not worth it.
The other thing that happens when a company is like really cheap and always trying to negotiate you down is they get a reputation in the software business. Like they're known for it and they get minimal activity, they get minimal effort towards getting deals done. Like you don't want to be known as that in any given industry at all. I mean, there's an airline or two that I can think of off the top of my head that are known for this. And they just don't get the they get like the low ranking salesperson on the account. They don't get executive attention. They don't get, they don't get the best
Yeah, it just
technologists trying to find solutions for their business because they're known for, just really trying to get away
and
with
look,
cheap pricing.
and there's different business models. If you got the Ryanair business model, maybe that's the way you're going to be, right? And as long as you're a
Yeah.
supplier and you know that you're going to, fair enough. If you know the arrangement you're getting into, and if you like, I don't know if you've ever listened to the, I don't know if you've heard of Acquired, but it's a podcast, and they do one on Costco. And you look at their value system; it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah, it
I think
is.
there's four value elements, and one is treat treat your suppliers with respect.
Yep. Yep. It's simple
And look at
because they
that
make,
company.
yeah, exactly. They're a great company. They have great employees. They have great profits. They're a great stock. They're really fun
They
to work
are.
with. Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Oh yeah.
So, after let's see, let's go back to thank you for your stare down the bulls. They were great. I love them. Let's go back to, all right. So you sold Genesis and then I don't know, you took some time off maybe, and then you started a fractional CMO consulting practice, which is where we
Yeah.
hooked up again
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
was doing a CRO fractional and we thought we could help each other.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like,
we did.
how did running your own consulting business shape how you approach the current wave of enterprise demand around AI?
Yeah, like I'd never put my own personal shingle out there, and Look, I have to thank Premier again. Like they definitely made some introductions for me, which were really helpful. Um, and I enjoyed it. Like I really enjoyed it. And we had
Yeah, I
done
really like it too.
uh, at the when I was, I went to California with Genesis, and I was the SVP of growth marketing. So that's all the go to market motions for Genesis, and I really enjoyed. That's where I brought in account based marketing, and that was early days of that, and we had fantastic success. So I think that's where sort of Premier saw that opportunity to apply that to the other portcos, and that's how I ended up, doing some work for some of their portcos, which I really enjoyed. But then an old voice genie guy, Frank Tersini,
Oh
we
yeah,
worked together there. Yeah, he
I know
introduced me to
Frank.
Servion, and I did
Yeah.
some work there to start off with. And as I got involved in that work, man, like those other spaces that were interesting, but I'm a CX person. I love it. There's something really exciting about it. And being an SI was really fun because for the first time, I didn't have to just sort of plug away at Genesis. We work with NICE, work with Varen. We got some really cool agentic AI startups like Parloa. We have Servion has a long history with Cisco. And so being able to talk to all the vendors, and we've got a burgeoning relationship with Zendesk. Tom Egemeyer's over there, so that's sort of fun. Uh, but it's really cool to see what's happening at my level now. And so Bryce Gibson became the CEO. He was one of our partners at Genesis at the time, a great guy.
Yeah.
And he said, "I need a chief growth officer." And I go like, "Oh, I know just the guy."
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, and that's how I ended on board. And I'm really loving it. And this idea of being the trusted advisor and consultant to our customers, and then we brought in some. Because this is where I think that space is going. We brought in some really cool offers like JourneyWorks, which is where we help. So my whole thing about AI was AI shouldn't be a solution for a problem. I believe that the way you experience customer service is through customer journeys and the journey that those clients are on, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's the way we should be going in to talk to clients is like, let's understand the journeys your clients are on, where are they going well, where are they falling over. We work with this journey orchestration partner called Incuba. They can help us really understand what's really cool today, by the way. With AI, we can start to intervene in those journeys in real time. It's amazing. So rather than doing a NPS survey after the fact, which everybody gets, and
Yeah.
you 2% completion rate, and nobody cares and nobody reads them, as far as I know. Uh, this like, okay, this client has a problem right now. You can help them, and we'll let you know. So that's number one. I think it's really, really cool. But we're trying to understand the client journeys and really help to fix those. That's our first place. Then we think, okay, what do you need to do? Do you need is your current platform good enough? Has it been optimized? That's always our first place. Or maybe it's time, maybe, believe it or not, maybe you haven't moved to the cloud. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
We got to migrate you to the cloud, but we're going to look at and break it down and what's the best way. But we really try and break this down to small chunks, almost use cases, get those things deployed, get that client, like the client themselves, a win, and that they can bring that up and say, hey, look, we've been working with Servion. They helped us with this use case. Here's the ROI we've been able to deliver. And now I'd like to, expand this relationship. And it's a lot. You can have great case studies, but there's nothing like your own data to, prove to management that, hey, here's a real win. And I've got a list of 5 more that we can go after. So
Yeah.
this is what we're finding.
This is an area where I hear so many companies say that they're just really getting it wrong. They can't figure out, what makes the most sense. They've spent a gazillion dollars implementing the wrong kinds of AI that haven't really shown anything. So what are they still getting wrong, Bruce? And how exactly is your
Yeah.
team going about helping them see real success
Well,
at
so that's
Servion?
number one is we're not we're not trying to promote a specific agentic AI solution or CCAS
Yeah.
solution. We're really trying to discover, where do you need help? What are the big issues that are going to move the needle? So, and then we sort of say, probably AI is going to help you somewhere, like logically. So we're now, okay, now we have a real use case. Let's find the agentic AI partner that can help solve this problem. So, and we've done a lot of our own work here. I don't know if you know this, but there are 1,600 conversational AI vendors out there today. 1,600.
No. Is that true? That's insane.
Yes,
No wonder our customers are confused. Like, seriously.
exactly. So we have gone through that 1,600 through a very diligent process instead of like, okay, like, very easy gates. Like, if you haven't raised more than 10 million, or you don't have, and you need 10 million in revenue, then for our
You're
clients, you
out.
probably want the
Call
right
us
partner.
next year. Yeah.
So that I think it got us down to 29, and then went through a whole process. We
It
got it
got you
down.
down from 1,600 to 29
That 10 million gate really
Wow.
eliminated a lot of noise.
But aren't you worried that it also eliminated a lot of really good tech?
It's just
Okay.
impossible. You just can't
Yeah.
stand that space, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe, and look, we'll keep our eyes open, but we kept that process going. We got it down to about 9 that I feel like
Okay.
these 9 are players. Some of them might become from a CCAS vendor that have their own tech. Some are
Mhm.
standalone. Um, but that really helps. And then the other thing that's really important from our perspective is, we I don't yet believe in the zero touch service desk, right? Like, we need the human in the loop. That our journey works is human in the loop. So
Yeah.
we think we can offload a lot of traffic to an agentic AI agent, but not everything. What I'm
Yeah.
really hoping we can do is get those wait times destroyed, right? By giving the easy task to an agentic AI agent. But then we go through the process, like, that's the use case discovery. We, bring it down to 2 or 3 that fit with that client, sort of let them try it out and see what they feel comfortable with. Look at the commercials, and then we go, okay, maybe we do with more than one. And I find you're going to find is that you might have more than one solution. One's really cost effective, token prices are low, have, they can't handle a full conversational, multi-intent conversation, but good enough for that. And then, maybe
Yeah.
we put this other guy in here. So providing that guidance to them, man, that's helping a lot. And we try and do it on a really compact schedule. So I think, I don't know how I feel about this, but starting in voice XML with Voice Genie and with Nuance and SpeechWorks, and we had big promises. I'd say we're a little bit less on delivery of the promise, right? I don't,
Yeah.
customer service got better, but has it got that much better? My theory a bit about that is, like, as we brought automation in, instead of just, allowing that cost to not shrink quite as much, but to use that to deliver a better experience, I think a lot of that went to just reduce cost.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it did. It did. Um, at the expense of quality
a
to the
good
customer,
good,
which is what
yes.
had to be done. I mean, it wasn't sustainable at the cost that it was at. It just
No,
wasn't
no, but I
sustainable.
think we could have done I think we'd have a better rap as an industry if we put a little bit more, shared a little bit of the ROI with a good outcome for clients. But I think with agentic AI, for the first time, I think, like, oh my God, I think we could actually do both. I really do. Like,
Yeah.
there's the win for an agentic AI agent isn't like it costs nothing. That has gone away. Like, it's 25, 30%. So there's a real cost, but
Yes.
still you're a third or a quarter of the price of an agent. And
Right.
this is why don't get rid of that. And now I think for the human agent, boy, like, you give them really meaningful tasks, they can spend more time in relationship building. They're not, they haven't, this client hasn't waited 60 minutes to talk to that agent. So you're spending the first 15 minutes like walking them off a cliff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Right.
ready to engage.
Exactly. About something that they didn't have a problem with before they called you, by the way. They're
they're so
mostly annoyed
frustrated.
because they had to wait so so long.
And
It's got
then
nothing to do with their issue.
what we're doing as well is we're providing what we call a journey context map. So all the interactions this person had, we hand that over to the agentic AI agent. So it's having an in context conversation with that person, which is amazing. So when that gets handed over to the live agent, if required, then this it's going to be a good conversation. So better for the agent, better for the receiver of the service.
Hey, customers should definitely hire Servion because I've talked to a lot of different people about how this is being handled. And you are one of the few that has given me any sense that you have guidance, you have a strategy, you know how to help them, and you all have the pedigree. Like you all really understand how to do this. And you specifically, because you're like a mix of strategy and adaptability based on your background. So, yeah, they should give Servion a call if they need help, and they pretty much all need
We'd
help.
love to help.
So,
I got to say, I
yeah,
don't know, like personally, because you know, maybe I could retire, but I
it's
love it.
overrated. Retirement is overrated. I've tried
I
it
don't
like
know what I
3
would do with
times.
myself. I mean, I can ski and stuff like that. Of course, I love the outdoors, but man, I love
You
this
could
work.
do
And
that
right
without
now,
retiring. You do it anyways. You've always done
exactly,
it.
multitask. Yeah. So no, I think I don't think.
The last time I retired, I ended up with a podcast. So, here you go. There you have it.
Yeah, you got to be loving this. This is fun.
It's really nice to talk to people in depth that, like, we know a lot of really smart people, a lot of really, really
Yeah, I
brilliant
think of
people.
the people you've interviewed already, like, wow, impressive.
Yeah, and it's so nice too because nobody says no. They're all like, "Yeah, let's talk about
You
that
want to talk
stuff,"
to
you know?
Susan?
I kind of am bugged a little bit by the fact that people think that AI happened overnight in the last 2 years when we know it was really like a big effort of a lot of people to build the industry to the point of where it is today. And, there's so much, native knowledge, right? That these people have that I'm interviewing that's literally fascinating. And knowing how something is developed and how it came to fruition is really interesting as well. So we didn't ever have the time to just sit down and talk about this stuff when we were at it, right? We were busy. We were really busy people doing a lot all at one time. So just to have the time to sit down and talk
Honestly,
about
we,
it with
we
everybody's
I,
awesome.
I was working on machine language NLUs before voice gene, and
Yeah.
the problem was we were running that on a Pentium computer. It had no chance,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and now now we have these big monster NVIDIA farms, and we just have the processing power to do the heavy lifting. Of course, there's been a lot of innovation on top of that. I think the other thing is
There's
it's
actually a
mature.
lot of innovation to come on that too, because there's a big problem with the amount of electricity that these guys are taking. And,
Yeah, I think it's
photonic chips is a possibility to kind of solve that thing. So there's a whole new
photonics is
industry that's
really
starting to
cool.
pop up behind
Yeah.
that to solve the problem that we have now with these giant farms
I
for
think the
AI.
other thing as well is that we're getting more sophisticated in the way we talk about AI in terms of use cases, and AI has like there's now differentiation coming into the marketplace.
Yeah,
I think last year a lot of those projects were do an AI project, you know,
right.
and this year they're
Waste a
going like,
bunch of money and it ends up having no real value to the company.
yeah. So I think we're maturing. The tech's maturing. I think we're going to get some really good business cases coming out, over the next year. And I think our clients are smarter about how they want to deploy it and where and why. And so
Yeah.
we're on a good
Well, they're getting guidance now, which it was a little bit of the Wild West there for the
was
last 2
Wild West.
years. They were just winging it or hoping someone internally knew had a couple of ideas kind of thing. And so
Yeah,
now it's becoming a strategic initiative internally and it goes all
agreed.
the way up to the board members. So it's got legs in most of these companies. So let me ask
No,
you one last question because we are running a little bit behind here.
yes.
And I want to ask you the question about, so you're an outdoorsman, backcountry skier. Do you see parallels between your adventure in nature and your approach to business? Any lessons from the mountains that apply to the enterprise leadership?
Well, honestly, one is you got to be curious. You know,
Yeah.
why do I love this space right now? Because um, there's so many things happening. If you aren't curious, this is the wrong time not to be curious. You know, I
Yeah. Yeah.
as much time as I have, I love to deep dive in. And I said the only constraint now, Servion, is my time. That was the one thing that was lovely about a consultant. I had more free
Yeah.
time to really deep
Yeah.
dive into stuff. So,
Hmm.
and that when you're in the outdoors, especially where we are, uh, y- you don't know what you're going to get on a given day, right? It's an
Right.
adventure. Uh, and, you know, adventures almost never go to plan.
Yeah.
I have lots of stories about that. Uh,
Yeah.
but how you handle those, yeah, those little issues that come up when you're taking an adventure, getting lost or, finding yourself in a tough spot or deciding where you need to go, etc. Uh, so how do you handle that? Right. So that's a big parallel is how do you handle issues, right? And get through them. What's your decision? How you prepare to like, you just don't go into the backcountry. Like the backcountry is deadly if you're not careful. So you better go in with a plan and deal with the obstacles as they come, but have a plan on how to deal with them. Um, and then I think you got to enjoy the whole journey. Like I'll go back to Logan. I remember getting on the top of Logan, and that was quite a moment. But it was the entire adventure that was the moment. And
Yes.
so don't I think in the mountains, you live in the mountains. You got to stop every once in a while and just look at where you are and go like, holy man, I'm in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah.
And then when it's going really tough is like, you always, I got one, that mountain actually. Um, we had to try it twice. The first time did not work out. It was a complete snowstorm. It was a complete disaster. Getting in there was really challenging. Just even to the base of the glacier was horrible experience. And after we aborted that trip and we're driving out, we're going like, we are never going there again. And it's about a 3 hour drive to the airport. And by the time we got to the airport, it was like, all right, I'm open August 12th weekend next year. Let's go.
That's true though. I mean, the pivot is all part of the journey, right? Like it's the same
Yeah.
thing with contract negotiations or selling. You have to be able to pivot all the time, and it's just one pivot is one step and then the next pivot and the next pivot, and you pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot until it's closed. And then you
And
start a whole
when
new
things,
pivot with
even
solution
those
work.
journeys that went sort of wrong, like were really challenging. And you're thinking like I have fond memories of that now. Like it's a hell of a
Yeah.
story to tell.
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
I think you got to just
Amazing.
go, enjoy life.
Enjoy life, take a chance, make
Yes.
some moves. Same thing
Yeah.
with business. If they say no or it doesn't work out, so what? Then you just do a different thing. You do the next
Yeah.
thing. So
No, that's right.
I thought I said that was my last question, but I'm gonna ask you one more question. Do founders and leaders, and I know you deal with quite a few of these, trying to disrupt entrenched industries today, is there any advice that you would give them right now outside of what you've already given?
Yeah. Perseverance.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. Like, man, there's a lot of people that tell you that's not going to be possible, that it can't be done, that you're this or you're that or something. And you got to believe and it's going to take you longer. I think you have the perfect scenario lined up and you think it's going to go like this. Variably, it doesn't. If you really believe in it, then don't give up. I think that's the biggest takeaway I have. Again, like that's a perfect corollary to climbing. Like
Yeah.
the first time
I,
you hit an obstacle, you turned around, you'd never ascend a single mountain. It'd be possible. So I think
I
you got
think
to
it's a,
persevere and don't doubt yourself. You know,
yeah. I think that's the big difference between really successful people and marginally successful people. It's perseverance. They just didn't give up. They just kept doing it until they
look at
got where they
Jensen
needed to
Huang.
be.
Think how long it took him.
Yeah.
I was in another podcast where Lex Friedman. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, when he came out with the Coda architecture, like, it was a big hit on profitability, and it took them 10 years to sort of make clear that that was the right decision. Can you imagine?
I don't have to imagine. We built an entire industry. It took us a long time. It took us 15
Yeah.
years. And it took a lot
And
of
we're
different
finally going to get it
companies
right.
pulling in the same direction to make it happen. So, yeah, it takes a long time, but it's definitely a journey worth taking. All
Yeah.
right, Bruce, thank you so much for joining today. That was a great topic, great discussion. So good seeing you. Keep up the great work at Servion. It's really needed out there for our Fortune 500 and so on customers. They need the help. So thanks again. I appreciate you joining today.
It's always a pleasure, Susan. We go back along, and that were some fun days back. We
They
were
were.
doing this together. It was awesome. So it was
It
a
really
real
was.
pleasure. I have a lot of respect. You're my great example of the best sales leader I've met. You're just amazing. So
Oh, thank you. And back
yeah.
at you. The respect is very mutual, Bruce. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to Stare Down the Ball. If today's conversation sparked new ideas, share it with a colleague and keep the momentum going. The future belongs to leaders who act, so subscribe and join us again next week.